David Cameron's mother gave him a £200,000 gift after his father's death, which could potentially avoid inheritance tax, his accounts show. In a first for a UK Prime Minister, Mr Cameron has released a summary of his tax returns from 2009 to 15 as he tries to defuse a row over his finances. The two £100,000 payments were made a year after the PM inherited £300,000 from his father in 2010, papers show. Ministers said he'd done nothing wrong, but Labour said questions remained. Over 6 years, Mr Cameron earned a total of almost £1.1 million and paid about £400,000 in income tax, according to the 3-page summary. See the papers. Last year, he paid almost £76,000 in tax on an income of more than £200,000. Those earnings included almost £47,000 from a share of rent paid on his family home in West London. The payments by Mary Cameron to her son in May and July 2011 were given tax-free, and will only become liable to inheritance tax of up to 40% if she dies within 7 years of handing over the money. Downing Street said the payments were an attempt to balance the sums received by all Cameron children, as Mr Cameron's older brother had inherited the family home. But Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn said Mr Cameron needed to publish his full tax returns dating back to before he became Prime Minister in 2010, when he sold off shares in his late father's offshore investment fund for a £9,500 profit, below the £10,100 threshold for capital gains tax. "I want to see the papers," Mr Corbyn told the Andrew Marr Show. "We need to know what he's actually returned as a tax return. We need to know why he put this money overseas in the first place, and whether he made anything out of it or not before 2010 when he became Prime Minister. These are questions that he must answer." System wrong. Asked about the £200,000 gift from his mother, the Labour leader said there was possibly a case for looking at inheritance tax rules. He said, "It does actually reduce the level of inheritance tax that is available for the Exchequer as a whole." Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said the Prime Minister had effectively inherited £500,000 from his mum and dad and not paid a penny on it, which, he said, showed there was something wrong with the system. Mr Corbyn, who has promised to publish his own tax returns very soon, also suggested Britain needed to be much more assertive on the question of overseas arrangements in the UK's overseas territories and asked why Britain was encouraging tax havens. And he said greater openness around tax affairs might be expected from all those in public life, not just MPs, in future, saying, "I think we're moving in that direction." The SNP are, meanwhile, calling on Mr Cameron to publish a financial statement on all government ministers and whether they have benefited from offshore tax havens. Energy and Climate Change Secretary Amber Rudd defended the Prime Minister on the Andrew Marr Show, saying the Prime Minister had said all there is to be said about his tax affairs, having taken the unprecedented step of publishing details. "Blame me." She said Mr Cameron and his family had done nothing wrong and had paid the correct amount of tax due, adding that going after tax havens had been a key priority for the government since 2010. Mr Cameron has also announced a new task force to investigate tax dodging allegations arising from the leak of 11 million documents from Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca, known as the Panama Papers. The Prime Minister was dragged into the controversy when it emerged his late father's investment fund, Blairmore, was a client of the firm. Downing Street issued a series of statements over 4 days as pressure on Mr Cameron mounted before he finally admitted he had benefited from the fund. On Saturday, he admitted he could have better handled the row over his financial affairs, telling people to blame me for the slow response, not Downing Street officials. He said he was publishing the information on his income to be completely open and transparent. The figures released by the Prime Minister also show. He and his wife Samantha made a £19,000 profit from the sale in 2010 of their shares in the Blairmore Holdings Fund. Mr Cameron declared a £9,501 share of that profit, below the then £10,100 capital gains tax threshold. On top of his prime ministerial income, and the London rent, he last year received £9,834 in taxable expenses from the Tory party and £3,052 in interest on savings at a high street bank. He earned enough to benefit from the 2013 cut in the top rate of tax from 50p to 45p, for people earning more than £150,000. In 2010, when he first entered Downing Street, he took the Prime Ministerial Expenses deduction, a £20,000 tax-free allowance, as part of his £142,500 salary. But he voluntarily cancelled out the allowance by declaring the equivalent amount as taxable income from 2011 to 12, 2012 to 13 and 2013 to 14, before waiving it from 2014 to 15. Mr. Cameron's tax schedule from RNS Chartered Accountants also showed. As leader of the opposition in 2009 to 10, Mr. Cameron paid £43,483 in tax on £129,225 income. After entering Downing Street for the year 2010 to 11, he paid £56,155 on a taxable income of £157,286. In 2011 to 12 his income rose to £200,919, boosted by his share of rent from the Camerons' Notting Hill home, and he paid £77,987 in tax. In 2012 to 13, he paid £72,472 tax on an income of £189,506. In 2013 to 14 he paid £76,288 on a £200,735 income. The Prime Minister's salary was steady at £142,500 from 2010 to 2015, but there were tax variations due to treatment of his pension contributions and the different approaches to his £20,000 tax-free allowance. In terms of rent earned on the Notting Hill house, Mr. Cameron's 50% share, minus expenses, was £45,041 in 2011 to 12, £46,700 in 2012 to 13, £47,764 in 2013 to 14 and £46,899 last year. The new tax task force announced by Mr. Cameron will have initial funding of £10 million and involve staff from the Serious Fraud Office and Financial Conduct Authority as well as HMRC and the NCA. The government said the agencies had leading technology, experts, and resources to tackle money laundering and tax evasion. Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said proposals for the task force to report to the Chancellor and Home Secretary were unacceptable. Any inquiry must be fully independent and in public, he said.